black nor blue, if it wasn't for the work of the weaver. I can hear Jimmy McGregor singing in there, but lots of other people do. There's some folk independent of other tradesmen's work, but women needn't barber and dykers needn't clerk. But there's none of them can do without a coat or a sack. Now they canna want to work. Oh, the weavers, help me. Oh, we must be for the weavers. What would we do? We wouldn't have clothes made of our wool. We wouldn't have coat, nah, neither black nor blue, if it wasn't for the work of the weavers. Good singing. The smiths and the brights and mason shields and all. There's doctors and there's ministers and them that live by law. And our friends in South America, so them we never saw. They all need the work of the weaver. And if it wasn't for the weaver, what would we do? We wouldn't have clothes made of our wool. We wouldn't have coat, nah, neither black nor blue, if it wasn't for the work of the weavers. Our soldiers and our sailors, we ken they're all bald, but if they hadn't any claws, then they couldn't effect for call. The high and low, the rich and poor, all body, young and old, they all need the work of the weaver. If it wasn't for the weaver, what would we do? We wouldn't have clothes made of our wool. We wouldn't have coat, no, neither black nor blue, if it wasn't for the work of the weaver. Good stuff. The weaving is a trade that never can fail, so long as we need eye clothes to keep up any hail. So let us all be merry out of bicker or good ale, and drink to the health of the weaver. But if it wasn't for the weaver, what would we do? We wouldn't have clothes made of our wool. We wouldn't have coat, nah, neither black nor blue, if it wasn't for the work of the weaver. Give yourself a round of applause, it was great.
And now our journey takes us to the handloom weavers of Kilbarchan. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, if you've been to Lily's Day, Habby Simpson's costume. But this is Habby Simpson's costume here. And Christine MacLeod in the National Trust for Scotland's Weavers' Cottage wove the piece of material that has made Habby's costume. And I don't know if you can see it, it's absolutely wonderful. You can see that. It's a beautiful piece of material. And if you go to the Weaver's Cottage, which I really suggest you do, you feel like you're stepping back in time. And you get the sense of what a family story would be like. For the whole family would be involved in it. They would help to card the sheep's wool. Quite a job. Quite a smell too, actually. And then they would help to spin. They would learn to spin it. And there's it's amazing. Look at that. I tried to do that, and I tell you what, I am terrible. He's so good at it. That's a spindle. That's what they would have used long before to do that with. But every house would have one of those. And so the children would help with all of these things, not just the adults, and spinning, and then it was spinning the pern, and then of course you would hear the sound of the clack, clack, clack of the material being woven. And the handloom that's used in the Weaver's Cottage was Willie Meikle's handloom, which his family donated to the National Trust. And that is what Christine MacLeod used. Willie Meikle was astonishing, a remarkable man. He was interviewed in 1933 for a magazine, a Scottish magazine. And the interviewer said, "Today, you must be the only person in Scotland, if not the world, that can weave a tartan rug with the husband's grant tartan on the top and underneath the wife's MacLeod tartan. "How do you do that?" said the interviewer. Well, Willie Meikle said, "Well, my eyes on the Grant, but my mind is on the MacLeod." Wow! The interviewer said, "Well, you know, the sound of the loom is soon going to be silent, and this traditional craft will have gone, and the looms will be silent." And Willie Meikle said, "Yeah, I know." He said, "But there's nothing better for a man to be sitting in his own home at his own loom and to be able to see the flowers growing in his garden at the same time. What a man, so modest." But in 1938, his reputation went ahead of him, for King George VI commanded that Willie weave him some tartan for him and Queen Mother. And from then on, he was known as the King's kilt maker. His fame grew. When it came to 1951 and the Empire Exhibition, he was invited to show his skill on the loom, and he was invited to the Toronto Exhibition in Canada, and they wanted him so much they shipped his whole loom out so he could give the demonstration on his own loom. Isn't that absolutely remarkable? What an amazing man he is. And one of the things about Willie Meikle, oh yes, what an amazing man. And so today we have Christine MacLeod, and she uses the hand loom. A few years back, the wall on Church Street, where the graveyard is, started to fall onto the road. So Renfrewshire Council had to do something about it. But there's human remains there. So obviously they had to get an archaeologist in to look at the remains. An amazing thing was found. The peak of the hand loom weaving period was 1950. There was increasing numbers, but the most were in 1950. And what they found in the human remains... Sorry?
1950. 1850.
Sorry. Thank you, that's fine. Do you know what? I've missed the whole bit that I was going to tell you. In fact, about hand loom weaving before I got to the remains of 1850, thank you very much, was the hand loom weaving. If you take hand loom weaving back in Kilbarchan, way in the early 17th century, there was hardly any. You go to the front of the 17th century, the very end of it, and there was like 40, and then you go to the end of the next century, there was 200, and then in can you remember? 1850, thank you, all keeping me straight now. Thank you very much, you all know now, and if somebody asks you, they'll say, when was the peak? You'd say, 1850! We've got experts here now.
I was believing her when she said 1950.
Sign of good storyteller. Anyway, so at the peak, yeah, but then mechanisation came in and the factories came in. But Kilbarchan didn't have a factory, which meant that hand loom weaving went on a lot longer. And do you know what? Weavers are smart. They're very smart people, very clever. And they diversified. They made holy ponchos for South America and Egypt. Did you know that? And they diversified into tartan. Yeah. And they made a superb job. But by the early 20th century, there was only like 200. And then to the 1950s, there was only a few left. So there you are, you all know your dates now. If you're asked, you can all be experts. Can't you? Is that right? Yeah. So, you know, Willie Meikle was one of the last ones. And so we come back to our remains from when? 1850. Well done. And the archaeologists found in the teeth that there was a groove in the teeth where they'd bitten the thread. And there's three teeth, and they all quite big grooves if you look at the archaeological remains. So body shape. Interesting. Well, there's a local tale about that. Once there was a girl with her widow mother. Now, this girl, oh, she was beautiful. She was gorgeous. But she was lazy and she was hornless. When she was asked to cook, she burnt things. When she was asked to tidy, oh, she made a terrible mess. And when she was given the spinning wheel and all the yarn, oh, it was lumpy, it was bumpy, it's a bit like what I do. Oh, it was terrible. One day, and mums, you'll know what this is like, she lost the plot. She said, "You are just such a useless girl. I'm so fit," she shouted. And the girl's like this. And then the mayor's handsome young son came riding by. And he said, "Oh, what's the matter here?" And the mother looked at the handsome mayor's son and said, Oh, it's my daughter. She won't stop spinning. Spin. She's doing it all day. And I'm saying, will you not stop? I've had it with you spinning all the time. For she could see good husband material. And the girl was sort of, oh. And then the son thought, my mammy told me that I should marry a woman that could spin at least, and she might approve of her. And she is absolutely gorgeous. He said, would you come home with me and marry me? And the girl said, yes! Only she didn't show it. And so she went home to meet her future mother-in-law. And you know what it's like an only son and the man? Yeah. And the son said, I'm going to marry her. She's lovely, isn't she? She can spin really well. Ew, I love that. Just to make sure you're just right for my son, let's see your spinning. Let's see what your spinning's like. And so the girl was shown into a room right beside the spinning wheel, beside the window. And the mother-in-law said, oh, I'll come back and see how you get on later. And the girl sat there and she started to spin. Oh, but it was so lumpy and bumpy. It was terrible. And she started crying, I'm never going to get to marry the weird son. I'm hopeless at it. Then she heard a little voice outside the window. And there was a woman with a great wiglet on this. What's the matter? What's the matter? Why are you greedy like that? Oh, I said, I can't get to marry the laird son because I can't spin this stuff. I'm hopeless at it. What am I going to do? Okay, I'll do that for you, no problem. She came up and the girl said, well, I've got nothing I can give you. Oh, don't worry about that. Just invite me to your wedding and, keep a place at the top table and say it's for your favourite auntie, and that'll be fine. And so the woman, she sat down and she began to spin. And the girl fell asleep. And when she woke up, there was the most exquisite, the most unearthly beautiful spun yarn. And the mother and future mother-in-law came over. Ew! Ew! It's just quite extraordinary. I said, what? But just to make sure you're right for my son, could you then weave me a nice piece of cloth from it? I'm sure you'll manage that. I'll come back later. Well, as the girl was bad at spinning, oh my goodness, it was dire. She'd forget which bit was what and what was where. Always a mess. She's, I'm never going to marry the laird son. It is no use. Then she heard a voice outside the window. And she looked down and there was a woman with huge, big feet with a bit of fleece stuck in them. Why are you moaning and groaning like that? I can't believe I'm hopeless at weeping and I'll never get to marry the laird's son if I can't. Oh, I'll do that for you. And the girl said, what? I can't give you anything. Oh, just invite me to your room at the top table and see my favourite auntie. That'll be fine. So the old woman sat down. She began to read. And the girl fell asleep to the sound of the clack, clack, clack. And when she woke up, there was the most exquisite, fine weaving, unearthly in its beauty. And the mother-in-law to be came in. Ew! Ew! I said, well, that's truly extraordinary. But just to make sure, absolutely sure you're right for my son, make my son some shirts from this material. I'll come back later. Well, as the girl was bad at spinning, was awful at weaving, she was like a monkey with a needle. Absolutely dreadful, could not sew to save herself. She didn't even start to try, but she started to cry. I'm never going to marry the weird son who was so near. Oh. And then she heard the wee voice. What's that, honey? Why are you crying like that? And she had the biggest thumb you've ever seen. Shoot! Oh, I can't make shirts. I'm hopeless with sewing. Oh, I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you. I've got nothing to give you, silly girl. Ah, don't worry. Invite me to your wedding to the top table and say I'm a favourite auntie and we're quits. And the woman sat down, she cut, and she sewed, she hummed, she song, and she did it till the girl fell asleep. And when she woke up, there were the finest shirts fit for a king. And the future mother-in-law came in. Ew! Oh, ew! Well, you must definitely marry my son, she said. You are absolutely perfect. And so it was. The wedding breakfast was laid out and the guests were all seated. But there were 3 seats at the top table with nobody in them. And they'd begun to eat when the door flung open and in came the woman with the big lip. Oh, hello, nice to see you. Oh, there she is, lovely, all right. And the weird son's going, oh my goodness, is she family? So he sat down, he was a polite young man, sat down. Then after a wee while he said to him, if you don't mind me asking, how did you get your big lip? Oh, sonny, I've been looking around to put for my spinning. It's the spinning that's done it. And he looked at his beautiful wife with her perfect lips and he said, you, my dear, shall never do spinning. And no sooner was that said, when the door opened and then came the mama with the big thing. Hi to everybody! Oh, nice to see you! Oh, there's my seat! And he was shown to the seat. And the little son thought, oh gosh, that one was ugly, this one's even more ugly. This size of it. But he was polite. And after a while he said, well, how did you get your big feet like that? Oh, son, I said, I've been weaving all my life for a long time. And that's what's caused it. He looked at his beautiful wife's tiny feet and he said, you, my dear, shall do no weaving. And no sooner was that out of his lips when in came the woman with a big thumb. Hello, hi, oh, nice to see you. And she was shown to her seat. And after a while, the little son said, if you don't mind me asking, how did you get your great big thumb? Oh, it's sewing that does it. And I've done it so long, my thumb's got huge. And he looked at his wife's beautiful, delicate, lovely hands. And he said, you, my dear, shall never do any sewing. But would you ladies do it? The ladies said, why, yes, we would. And so it was that they all lived happily ever after.
A couple of songs for you to do with me. Anthem Weaver. It's at the point where the fine times had gone, the daisy portion they called it, when the time when weaving was, hand weaving was at its height. And this song talks about how it changed. And the man who was working at his own fireside, as Anne was saying, in his own house. But where were the girls? The girls had all gone to work in the factory. So that was the choice for him to make. I'm a handloom weaver to my trade. Long time I've courted a factory maid. And if I could hard find favour with, I'd stand beside her and weave by steam. For many years now I've plied my skill at my own fireside, long before the mill. I wove fine linens and the sheets of fame, but the pitching shuttle sings my lassie's name. And my father oftentimes to me said, how can you fancy a factory maid? For you could have girls of grace and style, more fit to win a master weaver's smile. The easy portion of my father's age has withered now to a meagre wage, and the dark mill factories of Anderstown have brought the prices and the weavers down. Where are the girls now? I'll tell you plain. The girls have all gone to weave by steam. If you find them, you must rise at dawn and trudge to the mill in the early morn. Thank you. I used to work in Paisley. When I was working in Paisley, I had a window that looked right out over the Hamels, you know, the wee waterfall. And you know there was a mill on one side of it and a mill on the other side of it, and there were thousands of girls, and I've seen the photographs where 1,000 girls would come flooding out from the mill, all the mills on either side at the same time. And I was talking to people who used to do the work in there, and they said the dye works were upstream through the Hamels. And the dye would be, getting washed through the cloth, and the Hamels would run 5 or 6 colours of the different streams of extra dye running down. And we did a project about getting people to remember the old days in Kilbarchan, but in Paisley, pardon me. And they said, well, when you worked in the mill, it was a very lonely job. A lonely job, how would that be? When you were working your machine, it was coming at you, ba 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 ba, and you would then stretch out the thread, ba 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 ba. You couldn't hear yourself think. The girl next to you, you couldn't say hello to her or chat to her. All you could do was say, cup of tea, and sign language. So you were alone with your work. So I made a wee verse and a chorus about that for this project about working in the mill. And then Danny Kyle, and a lot of people here will remember Danny Kyle in Paisley, he did an awful lot for Scottish traditional music. And Danny was always after me to write more verses for this song. And he wanted to use it for the Small Shot Day, and you maybe know about the Small Shot holiday in Paisley, when the weavers, when they won a victory over the Corks, that was the name of the middlemen who bought the thread, gave them the thread, bought back the finished work. So I made more to it, and I'm very proud of this song because I've had recordings of it from about 3 or 4 different countries, and a man in Norway said, can I use the tune and write another song to it? I said, all right, fine. And I think maybe you'll be able to help me with this song. Shift and spin, warp and twine, making thread coarse and fine. dreaming o' your valentine, working in the mill, try that line, working in the mill. Keep your bobbins running easy, show your gallas bright and breezy, waiting till Prince Charming's easy, working in the mill. Oil your runners, mend your thread, do your best until you're dead. You wish you were a wife instead of working in the mill. Chorus says, shift and spin, warp and twine, beacon thread, coarse and fine, dreaming o' your valentine, working in the mill. You used to dream you'd be the rage, smiling on the fashion page. You never dreamt you'd be a wage slave, working in the mill. You used to think that life was kind, no it isn't, never mind. Maybe someday love will find you working in the mill. What it says, shift and spin, warp and twine, beacon thread, coarse and fine, dreaming o' your valentine, working in the mill. He loves you not, so what? Make the best of what you've got. Win your pay and spin your cotton, working in the mill. Shift and spin, warp and twine, beacon thread, coarse and fine, dreaming o' your valentine, working in the mill. We're waiting for another
And so we come from the weaver's cottage and the weavers to the very heart of Kilbarchan. Oh, I think you can hear me now. To the very heart of Kilbarchan, which is the people, which is the community, which is our history, our rich heritage, which is told on Lilia's Day in the historical parade and brings our community together, our wonderful community. Now, hands up here, young and old, if you've been part of Lilia's Day. Let's see how many people here in the audience. Oh, there's some younger people. There's Robbie, who's been in it. And at the back there is that's two children from primary 5, 6, isn't it? Yeah, excellent, excellent. And there's some amazing people in this audience. I know there's some young. Fantastic. Isn't it wonderful, our Lilius Day? Now, it goes back, they say, the name Lilius to Baron Cunningham's daughter Lilius, who was born in the late 17th century. But Lilius Day today, it's wonderful. The flags go out weeks before on the route of the parade. And in fact, our son Paul, who's here, he was born on Lilius Day. Yeah. And we just made it out before the parade started. Otherwise, you might be part of the parade. That would be good, newborn baby. Whoa! And of course, every year when he was tiny, he thought that was all in for him. Why not? And I still think,
as well as all the other children.
As well as all the other children. Well, I didn't have them all. I only got the two. So it's wonderful. And you may not know, some of you may not know about Lilius Day, but what happens is they have the bunting out, and then on the day, people dress up their houses and their business premises and the scout huts and, centre. And it's wonderful. And then there's the historic parade, which we've met one of the characters from there, and it tells the history of Kilbarchan. And there's pipe bands, of course, our wonderful Kilbarchan pipe bands, and there's floats. And then they go up to the steeple, which is just out in the square there. And then St. Barchan knocks on the door of the steeple. And he commands.
I call upon Habby to come out and join us in the parade and head for the park for fun.
Yay! Oh, wait a minute. Here's Habby. Habby. Joe, the Scottish flag was over your nation yesterday's morning, and you've come alive. And are you okay? Because you're out of sync here. It's not June the... You never got a chance, really, did you, last time? Because it was cancelled due to high winds. But you're getting a chance now. It was a bit blowy. But then you're good at blowing, aren't you? You're the best blower there is, I think. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, you better go to the parade and join your wife, Janet, and the children, the village children. Great to see you. Give Habby a round of applause. Nearly 500 years old, don't you think? And then the parade, it goes up to the public park. Now here we have our beautiful Miss Lilius, Victoria Thompson, and again she didn't get a chance to make her proclamation this year because it was cancelled due to high winds. So a round of applause for our very beautiful Victoria Thompson, who's going to make her proclamation.
We are pleased to see so many villagers, friends and visitors here today. On this Lilies Day, we would remind you that Kilbarchan has a long and honourable history based on the traditions of its weavers, and that the future of Kilbarchan lies in the hands of all those who care for the village and its traditions. We hope that you will enjoy yourselves in the park today, where many stalls and activities have been provided for your entertainment and pleasure. Finally, we hope that you will return here next year to join us in our festivities once more.
She crowns the school queen, don't you? And then she gives the prizes for all the winning houses and all the decoration and the floats. And then there's entertainment and fun in the park. And then they all go home, don't they? Thank you, Victoria. And then here's Habby. It's Habby there. Well, Habby, he goes to the steeple square there. I think he's away now. But he's going to get his pipes probably. And so he comes to Steeple Square and he plays his pipes, and sometimes people have a wee dance. And then he goes in the door and the flag is taken away. And Habby Simpson, once more, is up in his niche in the steeple. Come alive again. the next year. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that magical? And it's Kilbarchan. Wow. Now I have a treat for you. Ewan and I have been working with Primary 5, 6, and I see 3 of the pupils here who created another song for this evening. And it's a bit of fun. Sure it is, Robbie. And who else have we got? Is it Archie and Rona? And Rona, that's right. Archie and Rona. So there's 3 of the Primary 5, 6s here. I think they'd be too embarrassed to come up and sing this, but you can help them. Okay, you keep them straight, right? All right, the back there and Robbie there. Okay, and Ewan is going to sing the Primary 5, 6's Lily's Day song.
I should explain that my father, who was born in Kilbarchan, down in Merchant's Close, the house at the very far end, the white painted white in those days. So I never got into that house, but I remember going to the new laundry. There's the old laundry on one side, and there was the new laundry, which now is it's a garage. My father taught me how to play the bagpipes. I taught the kids. We all learned how to play them, didn't we? And this is how you play the bagpipes. Can you all help me? And the reason why you have to do it is it's in the song. You'll help me when you come along. Because it says, today is Lily's Day, when Habby comes out to play. Floats and bands and people are parading up the brae like this. Wow, 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 wow. It happens in Kilbarchan, Monks and St Barchan, and the town crier. Here comes the pipe band, the noise is getting higher. Wow, 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 wow. It happens in Kilbarchan, they go up to the square, all Kilbarchan's people. Habby, he is heading in his niche high on the steeple. Wow, 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 wow. It happens in Kilbarchan, in behind the flag. Habby comes alive, he's 400 years old. How did he survive? Wow, 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 wow. It happens in Kilbarchan. Round of applause for P5 6, please.
So, Lily's Day, it goes back quite a long way. It goes back to, records go back to 1687. And when Lilias was born to Baron Cunningham, she was a wonderful young woman. She was kind to the villagers, and it was the old Beltane Day or summer festival that Lily's Day really took over. And it was on the 3rd Tuesday of July at that time. And what they'd have is selling farm produce. There would be horse races, there would be foot races, and they had a parade of the tradesmen with the captains, the ensigns, with their swords, brocaded, marching to the drums. So it's quite an occasion. And how that changed and how that went on, we don't really know. But we know, along with St Barchan's Day, that it stopped at the beginning of the First World War.
They're coming your way. Okay.
Then the General Society, who is in fact a friendly society, is 250 years old this year. Isn't that amazing? I think it's the oldest friendly society in Scotland, I know. Amazing. So they took charge of having a Lily's Day again. And I think we found with St Barchan that it was in episodes that they told the story. And not only was that on Lily's Day, it was also on several other days. It was quite amazing, and it involved the whole village. And they had great arches across the streets. One at New Street, one at Toonfoot, Church Street, Steeple Street, and the old toll road at Milliken Park. They used to make these great arches across the street. wonderful elderly resident in Kilbarchan. She's 92 years young, Betty MacDonald. And I asked her what she remembered of Lilias Day 1933. And she said with a huge smile on her face, she said, "Oh, I loved Lilias Day. It was wonderful. I was so excited as a little girl. My father was George Fulton, and he was the blacksmith. And it was across from where the steeple is. And my mum, she ran the ironmongers. And my dad was on the float with his huge anvil and all his tools. And my mum, that year, she was one of the washerwomen on the float. I was so excited." And she said, "Oh, Steeple Street, our arch. We wanted ours to win. It was very competitive." And she remembers them making the great wooden arch. And then she said, "Well, my dad and all the boys and men, they went up to Burnt Shields Forest, to the trees up there, and they got all the heather, and they brought carts, put the heather and the greenery on it, and they had a great time. And the women, they got the wash baskets, and they went from door to door, and they got flowers and other greenery." And she remembers it was so much fun and so much laughter. And then there was somebody in charge of making the arch, and it was made, it took such a long time to make. And she tells me she remembers her dad coming to bed past midnight, because I'm not a few people who do Lilias Day this year will remember doing it past midnight, I'm sure. But that's what her dad did, and she said, "Oh, it took so long that I wanted it to be the best." And then when she woke up in the morning of Lilias Day, she said it was almost like Christmas Day. It was just so exciting. And the place was full to the gunnels. And of course the steam train would get you to the station, and the tram would take you there. It was packed with people. And she said it was so wonderful and so exciting. There was a glint in her eye when she told me about it. Now I have an amazing treat for you tonight. For some of you might not know this, there was a Lilias Day song. And we have tonight, for the first time since 1933, we have the Lilias Day song. Please give a round of applause for Village Voices with Lilias Day 1933 song.
In the tune is set that the Festival of Britain in 1951 and the Coronation Day Festival in 1953 were very like Olivia's days. Some people say they weren't, and I believe that was you who turned it out. But in 1968, the Kilbarchan Parents Association decided to revive Olivia's Day. And I talked to Anne Grieve, who was one of the founding members, and she told me how she researched into Olivia's Day and what had happened. And they decided they couldn't manage the arches because it's a lot of work. And of course you've got double-decker buses, it makes it more difficult. So they decided to invite people to decorate their houses and premises. And they had the bunting as well. And they decided to have a historical parade which told the story of Kilbarchan. And so it began in Kilbarchan Primary School the first time. But it got too big and it ended up in a public park. And so we come to today, and I've been talking a lot to Susan Calhoun, who's the co-chairman of the Lilias Day Committee. And we have some previous Lilias Day Committee members here. What a powerful, wonderful work they do in this village. And there are exciting new things going to happen, I think, with Lilias Day. They would like to make it a longer festival, maybe a week-long one, and maybe bring some storytelling into it so you can tell the story of Kilbarchan. And new characters as well. But really, we've come a long journey in time, but one of the things we've come to is the heart of Kilbarchan. And what a truly wonderful community we have here, with unique traditions and a wonderful history. And isn't it a fantastic place to live? So I just want to say, as we draw to the end of our evening, a great big thanks for all the people who have taken part and performed tonight. A thank you to St Barkin over here. All the other performers, and a big thank you to Ewan McVicker. For providing the backing for this to become a reality. And most of all, I'd love to say thank you to you. Give yourselves a round of applause for being a fantastic audience. And so, as we began this evening with our wonderful Kilbarchan pipe band, I think our evening should close with a resounding tune from our wonderful Kilbarchan pipe band.